Welcome to the Moms for America podcast. Each week, we introduce you to special guests who share their personal stories and advice on how to build a strong foundation of faith, family, and freedom in their home, community, and country. Hi, moms. I'm Debbie Carlitis, your host. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Every week, right, we as the mamas, we gather together to inspire, encourage, and educate moms in their journey through motherhood. We believe that liberty begins at home and that we as mothers, we are gifted with the most amazing blessing of raising the next generation. Right at the top of the show, I want to let you know about today's discussion. So many of our mamas out there are completely frustrated with the public school system, right? The moms are fed up with the lack of education and the blatant liberal indoctrination agenda that is attacking our children. There's masks, vaccines, CRT, perverted sex ed classes, and really the moms have just had enough. We will be addressing many of these issues and how parents can protect their kids in today's public school culture. So you do not want to miss today's podcast. But before we get started, let me take care of a little bit of business here. For those of you that are joining us for the very first time, I want to invite you to our website, momsforamerica.us. I want to invite you to check out all of our amazing resources, events, and programs. We have a plethora of information for you that is going to help you as you mother your children. When you stop by, please sign up for our Mom Memo as well. This is our weekly newsletter. This is how we stay connected and we communicate with you. So please sign up for our Mom Memo. Also, become a podcast subscriber. We're on all the formats. We're on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, all that fun stuff, Charisma Network. So please subscribe and share, and you can find us there. So let me go ahead and get on to today's episode. Tamra Farah is joining us today, and she is not only a special friend of mine, who I absolutely love and adore, she is the Executive Director of Strategic Initiatives here at Moms for America. Tamra is going to chat with us about taking back our school boards and reclaiming our children's education, right? This is on the heart of every mom all across America. It is absolutely a crazy, crazy world out there. And that's why moms are on the forefront of these issues. They want to protect their children and they want to hold their school boards accountable. So I'm thrilled to have Tamra with us. Welcome, Tamra. How are you today?
Oh, Debbie, I'm doing great. It is so awesome to be with you.
Oh, yes, always is. So Tamra, real quick, tell us a little bit about your family before we get into the school board initiatives and how moms can really take back their school boards on many levels. But tell us about your family. You have 2 children, right?
I do. I have 2 children and I have a Valentine. His name is Barry Farah.
That's right.
And he is my husband of 38 years. I feel so blessed. Happy Valentine's Day to all the moms out there. And our 2 children, which I had the privilege of sharing about our amazing adoption stories on an earlier episode that Debbie did with me. Right. So check that out if you want to hear our amazing God stories. So David is 32 and he is married to a wonderful, wonderful woman. I love Judy so much. And our daughter, Allie, is 28. And, we just love spending time with them. We're a very close family, just so blessed, so grateful.
I love that. I love hearing about everyone's families and their little nest. Okay, so let's get to the hot topic here today. The health and the safety of our children are being attacked all across the country, right? They're coming in and they are just destroying what used to be a great educational system. And it's been on attack for many years. I know that you were talking with moms all across the country. How bad is this? And then we're going to get to the fact of what we can do to help save our kids and the educational system and options for the moms. But it is really even worse than we think, isn't it, Tamra?
It really is, Debbie. And it's so interesting because the only silver lining that I see with COVID is that because of the lockdowns and the shutting down of schools and parents having to stay home from work and kids having to stay home from school and do school online. And obviously parents are going to be looking over the shoulder of their children. Oh, what are they learning today? Or, what's going on in this class, et cetera. They were able to begin to see some of the horrible information that their kids were getting. And I'll just give you one of those things. And I got this from a teacher who actually quit teaching in Orange County, California, in order to become a whistleblower, BrendaForKids.com. And it's called Scarleteen. That's the name of this organization. And these kids were being sent a link from Scarleteen, and Planned Parenthood is behind Scarleteen.
Of course,
are behind all of the horrific sex ed that's in schools. I'll tell you that later. And these kids, literally, I saw this with my own eyes on the Scarleteen website, a link that was sent to children during the lockdowns and probably is still in their possession that parents had no idea about, showing, yes, sadomasochistic type sex tools.
What?
I'm not exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating. And, so this is, I always tell people, this is not a conspiracy and it's not a theory because we've got the proof. And so it's just insane. That is just one of so many things that parents found out about. So mama bears were poked. Don't we always say that at Moms for America? Mama bear, someone poked mama bear, and you better watch out because you don't.
And and that's not a good thing.
You don't come between mama and her kids. I mean, all of a sudden they had all the time in the world to fight back against schools when previously they'd been too busy with life. And now they are awake and they're alive. And we are so privileged to help them and support them so that they can be effective as they push back.
Well, this is a perfect segue to the fact of what is Mom Force? What is this initiative that we're doing at Moms for America? This is in your wheelhouse. This is in strategic initiatives. You have been out and about with the moms all across the country, helping them fight back and take back their schools. So what is Mom Force? What is this initiative and what does it offer our moms?
Yes. So we are here for you, moms. It is scary. It is tough to think about going to a school board meeting, or maybe you'll go and sit in the back of a school board meeting, but to actually speak up, that can be so intimidating. And right now, schools have you intimidated about even coming to the school. That is your school. You pay tax dollars. You have every right to go to that office, talk to one of the administrators or the principal and say, I would like to go to the classroom and talk to my teacher. Things that used to be common practice every day where parents could go to schools. And of course they used to, before COVID, be able to come in and maybe read to the class or whatever. And now parents are so intimidated and they're not shown the curriculum. They're not given access to lesson plans. Now they are in some parts of the country, but they're skinny down. They're not really showing what's happening. And we have some legislation coming out now. And we have some members of Congress even putting forward to have bills for transparency. So that's a big, huge thing. Something you think that should be automatic is not, that you should be able to see lesson plans. You should be able to figure this out. Meanwhile, teachers are asking kids, what their gender pronouns are, et cetera. So we have on the momforce21.com, which takes you directly to our page on the Moms for America website. We have, first of all, the information about your parental rights. We want to encourage you, moms. You have a right. They want to make you feel like you don't have a right to speak up, but you do. You have a fundamental right. It is unalienable. It isn't given to you by government. It's given to you by God. Those are your children, and you can stand up for them and don't let anyone intimidate you. We have a declaration of mothers that will inspire you, and you can sign that. Nearly 1 million moms have signed the declaration with Moms for America.
That's right.
And that can just fill your soul with strength. And then, we get into some practical stuff, like, of course, our cottage meetings. Maybe you need foundation in the Liberty Principles. You can do a 12-week course, a 16-week course in your home, virtually with a group of moms, and that will strengthen you. So then you have your foundations, and then you can start taking, engaging with that knowledge and that strength, or you could do it all at the same time. But anyway, the point is that we have tools, many resources there to help you engage with your school, a deep understanding of CRT, gender manipulation, is what we call it. Radical comprehensive sex education. We also give action items like, how do you go after these books in schools and try to get them out? We actually give you step-by-step process for that. You can join together with other moms and work on that in your district. And so many more resources like those for engaging. We also give you information about educational choice. you might be ready to say, I have to get my kids out of school. I can't subject them to this. And it's intimidating, but
Right.
we will walk you through it. We have mom mentors. We have incredible resources, how to start a pod with other moms. And then we also can give you information on how to run for school board if that's your thing. And great training programs with our coalition partners. And again, mentoring. And then our great signature new program started by Dr. Kelly Coles in Ohio that she's been running for a few years, an alternative to the National School Board Association. Yes, the group that called us domestic terrorists. How dare they?
How dare
Kelly
they?
has come along and she has this great alternative, and she trains new school board members how to be effective, how to be bold, but respectful, and how to win the day on your school board. So lots of good stuff.
So moms, I know you're like, okay, I didn't have my pen out. I couldn't write all that down. Tamra's got such exciting news for us. Here's the deal. You go to momsforamerica.us, and then you go ahead and you look for the Mom Force drop down there, and all of this information is there. All of this is on our website. It is truly incredible, the resources that we have. So we have everything from just inspiring and encouraging you to maybe go and speak up at your school board, to all the way for how to run for your school board. And then when you win, what do you take into that board meeting? I mean, this is a huge program. And again, some of these I want to go ahead and talk specifically with Tamra, but we just want you to know, we know that your child's education is so important to you and what is happening. And a lot of the time, Tamra, agree with me on this one here, as we talk about this, parents are finding out after something goes into their child's email box. So in our school, they did a diversity survey. And it was like, oh, this is an optional survey that's going to be dropped into your kid's box. And then we find out they're asking them about their gender. Are they confused? Are they searching? Are they questioning? What is their gender? What is their religion? All of these bizarre data mining questions that were way over the top. And that sent our moms in our area in droves to the school board meeting. So sometimes people are finding out about this afterwards. So if we're aware and thinking and have the knowledge to what to look for, we will know how to save our kids in the school district. So what are some of the, I know we just touched on a little bit, but some of these hot button issues that are happening right now, and a lot of it's kind of ever changing. What are you hearing from the moms? We've got critical race, we've got the terrible sex ed, and how bad are these? And is there a range? Not every school is doing this. Not every parts of the country are. Or what are we seeing? You tell me.
Right. So let's just take the example of sex education. So the latest program for sex education was passed in 2011. And that sex education program, which now includes even more information on gender, and what I would consider gender manipulation, and even more information on radical pornographic styled sex ed, things that really do not belong in school. That was written by the former medical director of Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
And of course, Planned Parenthood has been very involved in sex ed in schools.
Right.
And that was partially funded by Hugh Hefner, the guy who founded Playboy.
Okay, so let's connect all the dots, right?
Consider the source, yeah.
Right.
And, so this is where we have to look and see, why are these things in schools when schools have no business teaching our children these things? Critical race, okay. There's a gentleman named Eddie Moore, Dr. Eddie Moore Jr. He actually was very involved in creating the construct. I call it a construct. I believe it's a marketing campaign that uses the language white privilege and uses the language diversity, equity, and inclusion. These are constructs they've created, and then they've created campaigns, PR campaigns around them to create a false reality that does not even exist. And they know that if they teach the children when they're young, because of course teachers are trusted adults and have a lot of influence on children,
right,
that they will be actually training them to think that these things are real and that they should be followed. So white privilege, if you are white, you have white privilege. You can't get away from it. You cannot change. So Debbie, you and I went to Farmington and we talked there about the 21-day equity challenge. That was put together by Dr. Eddie Moore. He's doing those all over the country.
And what was it? Let's tell everybody what that was. We went
exactly. So that 21-day equity challenge talks about white privilege and talks about that you are an oppressor or oppressed, and that there's no way out of it. So the only recourse that you have, if you happen to be white or any other color, is, especially those who are white, is to avoid certain things. So it's like a list of rules. You have to follow these rules. That's your only hope for surviving in your culture. Like we've talked about before, you can't ask somebody where they're from. That's considered a microaggression.
That's the new term, microaggression.
Microaggression. Right. You can't ask them, what are they at? And of course, that's the way people ask what type of gender you are. What are you? You can't ask that. It's a microaggression. So it's these constructs, and they've built, not studies, but teaching tools around these. And these are in our schools. And they haven't even been proven. They're not scientific. They're not part of, just one theory among 10 that kids might learn to understand certain things happening in the world. That would be different. You're teaching critical thinking. Okay, here's this person's idea, but here's a completely opposite idea. That's not happening. We're not talking about critical thinking and presentation of numerous theories to contrast and compare, which is part of a good education. No, they're not doing that. It's just like indoctrinating, teaching it as truth. Same thing with sex education and having these books in schools right down in the resource center, where a third grader can literally go and get the genderqueer book and the lawn boy book and see gay pornographic sex on the page. Now it's a drawing, so it doesn't. That's the crazy thing, is that you actually have to have a real image for a lot of these state laws related to pornography for it to be considered pornography by legal definition. But we're going to have to go after that, or state legislators are going to have to go after that. I mean, we're C3, so we educate, but someone needs to go after that and change some of that language, because that is unacceptable. That is pure pornography, and these little children are seeing it.
And they passed it in Illinois. We have a horrific a sex ed bill that everyone has to, if they're going to keep their kids in school, they have to opt out of this. And those are some of the things that we're going to talk about. But did you know that in Chicago now that they're making condoms available for fifth graders in the public school system? I mean, this is so absolutely outrageous and offensive and disgusting. It is. And I think this is just the thing that the parents are waking up, and I know that parents have been busy, and I know that moms have been busy, but it is a new day. It is a new dawn. And we have got to figure out, and this is how I want to help moms, how to handle your school board and options of taking it out. I even think of how has this gotten this bad? What happened?
And that's the question, because to solve a problem, you have to really understand, the origins of the problem, right? You have to go back to when it started to become a problem. And when you go back into history, and I will be putting more information together on this and making it available through Mom Force, but currently I'm in the process of researching, gathering the information. So what I have found, and I'm not the first to talk about it, there's some incredible writings out there in Epic Times. Actually, the Illinois Policy Institute covered a series by Alex, is it Newman? Yes. And so there is great information already out there. We will just actually add it to our website and summarize some of it. But here's the bottom line. This goes back to communist Marxists.
Absolutely.
Marxist Leninists. And again, this is not a conspiracy or a theory, because we've got the data and information to back up what I'm saying.
It has always been their agenda.
Yes, it's a historical, you can trace it historically. So the Frankfurt School, where a lot of this started, after World War II, they decided, okay, we're going to have to take a nonviolent approach to bring communism and Marxism to the West. And so that's a very studied approach. And so they, what they always know, of course, we saw this with Hitler, where you train the youth. And so their agenda became to infiltrate the United States education system, starting, of course, with universities. And we saw that huge swing left in universities over the last generation or two. And now, of course, it's been increasingly brought into K through 12. So these are very much those ideals. And the number one way that you get rid of the American Republic is you have to destroy its foundations. The foundations of this country are Judeo-Christian ideas. Morality is a huge part of this republic. It does not exist really without moral leaders and moral leadership. They know that. And so they need to destroy morality. And so you might think, wow, this is crazy, Tamra. Like, where'd you get all this? But this, I can trace this for you. And so that's why they went after sexuality. That's why they've broken down the concept of the nuclear family. And, I just wrote on this recently, where out in Ventura, California, someone wrote an op-ed recently that said, if we want to achieve true equity, we have to just take children away from their parents. That is in black and white in an op-ed in a newspaper in California.
Oh, they're so emboldened. They so think that they are going to parent our kids. They have crossed a line. Wow. I mean, this just infuriates us. How do we get this stuff out of our schools? What do we do? How do we make the change? Because we'll talk about homeschooling and some other ideas, but some parents, right, Tamra, they can't leave the school right now for whatever reason. They can't afford private school. They're working. They can't do homeschooling. What do we tell for the parents that are in the fight right now at their school boards and trying to have, to be the light there? What do we tell them right now?
Yes, I think those that absolutely cannot do it right this moment, or even for the remainder of this school year, please meet with your children every day. Insist on a mama time. And just to sit down and try to speak to them. Now, kids, we all know they get into different phases where they don't want to tell mom what's happening. They don't want to tell mom what the teacher said that they know mom won't like, because then mom will take them out of school, and they don't want to leave school because their friends are at school. So there's, we understand because we're moms. We know how that is.
There is that circle, right? Of like, the kids don't want to tell us too much because all of a sudden they're going to be, they're like, no, mom, please don't sit with me in the classroom. Exactly. Well, if we need to, we will.
And we have to work with that because we know it's a relationship. It's a dynamic relationship that we have with our children. But even if they won't speak about it, about it, moms, because we're telling you, we're informing you, we've got resources that help you. So at least you do know what's going on largely in these schools. So be able to say, I think you're probably hearing about ABC. Here's what I want you to really think about that. And, and again, we can even create these resources, Deb, to help moms know what to say and how to approach it, how to speak that to their children. And their child will think about that. They will think, oh, okay, my teacher's saying this, but my mom told me that. They will think twice about, really getting swept up in it when you've got a good loving relationship with your children, which I'm sure almost all the moms watching this do. That's what they want. They're fostering that. So it is partly just trying to influence. And then if at all possible, talk with some other families about maybe starting a pod in the fall. Finding a way, even if you're a full-time working mom or a single mom, we know single moms that are doing this, where they're coming together with a small group. We've got information under Public School Exit. They're not reinventing the wheel. They've done an incredible job of showing you how to start a pod, the process for taking your kids out. Really seriously think about it for this fall, if you can. And we're here to help. We'll talk with you about it if you'd like.
So being the light in the school, addressing these on the forefront at your home and at your kitchen table that's coming at your kids, considering a pod, homeschooling, private. And I do think that there's going to be, as we kind of walk down this road, there's going to be a lot of options, parallel options for the educational system for freedom-loving parents that do not want their kids to be indoctrinated. So I think that a lot of folks, if once they get involved with other parents that are kind of on this journey, they're going to come up with great ideas.
Yes.
And they're going to
share your ideas with us so that we can, share them. And you can connect with us. One of the fastest ways to do that is to go to our Contact Us page at momsforamerica.us and check on school board. Momsforamerica.us, check school board. We reach out to every mom that checks school board, and we give you the opportunity to set up a call with us and our Mom Force team, because we are available to you. We are here to help, to encourage. You were just talking about private schools. Debbie, it's so sad what's even happening in some of these private schools, because they have liberals on their board, and those that fund the school that are buying into this agenda. I just had a call last week with a mom in the LA area, and she just poured out her heart to me. If she had planned since her child was born, to send them to this incredible Jewish prep school $30,000 a year. They had the money. They had been waiting. I mean, can you imagine the build up and the excitement that your child would get to start this school in junior high? And she had to remove him within a year because of this radical sex ed, these equity teachings and pressures that your race, your white privilege, and, the pornographic sex.
Horrible.
It's horrible. And it's happening all over the country.
Wow. Well, we had to take our son out of public school too and put him in private. Didn't have to do that with my other two because this agenda was not so bold and brazen and ridiculous and offensive. But yeah, we had to take our youngest out and put him in a conservative school. I mean, I went there, I met with them. I said, what are your policies? What are you going to be teaching? What's your mask policy? What's your vaccination policy? What is your message? And here they pray every day and they do the pledge and there's no alternative flags. There's no indoctrination. So thank God we found one. And it was a journey for us. I mean, it took us months to figure this out, but that's what moms do, right?
Yes.
We're going to figure out what are our alternatives? What can we gather around as a family? Talk this through. I mean, my son didn't want to leave his junior year, but I said, listen, you got to trust us because you're not going to flourish here.
Exactly. Our kids were in a charter school for many years. We helped start this classical charter school, but then in, senior high, our son played football. He wanted to go to public school. He was there for a semester and I could see some of the things that were coming into his mind and his approach to life and people. And I thought, this is not right. I don't want him in that culture. I don't want him in that environment. And I went to him at Christmas and I said, what would you think about doing online school? And it was so interesting because he said, yes, I'd like that. Now, of course, he wouldn't have brought that up to me probably, but mama bears, listen to your intuition because sometimes your kids just don't know how to say it and they're not comfortable. So you would probably be pleasantly surprised if you were able to make a plan. And it was a hard transition for David. He's very social and personable. And, he talked my ear off for the first several weeks, when he was getting started because he was used to all that social interaction. Right. And even though online high school, has its pros and cons, we were a part of a co-op. And so we got to be a part of a thing called Teen PAC, which was a mock legislature. David and I got to go to the Alito hearings when Alito was, being questioned to be on the Supreme Court. It was such a powerful experience and part of speech and debate club. So you would be amazed on the other side how many perks there are to bringing your kids home.
And you know what? I'm saying yes and amen to that too, because sometimes we just figure it's going to be harder than it is. And kids are resilient. They will make the transition. And if you just coach them along and you just help them on their journey, we're figuring out other ways and other ideas. Like you're just saying, you just fill up their cup with what you need to do as a parent. And it's going to be an adjustment for you and your family.
Exactly. And our son went on to go to Pepperdine, which is such a top school with a good, kind of Christian influence, but not a religious school. Perfect blend for him. He graduated and has gone on to have a really good career. So, it's just for a season. We think homeschooling, but it's only for a time. It seems like a long time when you're a young mom. I remember those days, but time really does fly.
It does. And now one of the other big things was the mask mandates, but now a lot of states are kind of pulling back on them because the election season is upon us and it's coming. It's happening here in Illinois, although we've had a major lawsuit that let us unmask our children, although some school boards are still going with the mask mandate because of our governor. But now we're kind of seeing everybody's rolling back a little bit on the masks. And you think this is kind of a midterm politically motivated playbook on these masks and initiatives being rolled back?
It's a definite question to raise. And I also just have to say real quick, I loved the videos that I saw on social media of kids in Chicago public schools in high school that were coming in without masks. They're like, I don't care. What are you going to, you can't stop me. And they were like dozens at least of these kids. And I just think about, it just makes my heart swell with pride that those are the future leaders of the country. And it just, it's so powerful when you see it. Anyway, yes, I think it is such a good question. And so one of the things that we want to do on the back end is try to hold especially school board members accountable when the decision to rescind the mask mandates was at the school board level, because sometimes it's at the state level. with the governor. Sometimes it's a lawsuit that's taking place, but particularly when the school board itself has voted to lift the mask mandate, which, because I follow dozens of these groups, at least 2 to 3 dozen of these groups on Facebook, where all these moms talk about what's happening in their local school board in all the different states and areas of the country. I'm seeing that it is, oh my gosh, they're lifting the masks, mandates. It's so exciting. Were you at the board meeting last night or whatever? And so I think those moms and parents have an opportunity. Just again, this is a take action item that we can put on our website, to hold those school board members accountable, to test whether or not it's a political move. And one way they can do that is by, and we will work up the language on this affidavit, and to go into a school board meeting, I don't know if we should do it this spring, maybe in the fall, maybe both, where you ask or have 5 or 6 different parents speak and have, at the next school board meeting, if this decision has been made, and you put the challenge to them. Are you willing to sign an affidavit that you will not lift or reinstate, this mask mandate after the election?
Nice.
Unless, and then it's got to be a super high bar, because, and that brings me to another point. So anyway, hold them accountable through that.
Yes.
That's an idea. And the thing is, they probably won't sign it. And that is something that you can tell your community.
Right.
Okay, why didn't they sign this? Why are they afraid to sign it?
Right.
And then that just puts them hopefully a little bit on edge about being reelected. And again, just holding them accountable.
Right. And people do act differently when they know that they're watching, that people are watching.
They do.
So good for the moms and the parents that are showing up and asking these questions. But you had another thought.
Yes. So I think that, we do always have to watch for these election ploys, right? Because it's happening across the board. But here's the problem. When you dig down on the data and you look at the number of children, so what are we really afraid of with COVID? Honestly, it's death. That's what people are really afraid of.
Right.
I mean, if you get COVID, even if you get it longer and it's harder for you, people know they can get through that because millions of people have gotten through it.
Right.
But it's the fear of death. And all of us respect the fear of death. It's a reality.
Right.
So that's why I want to focus on deaths among children. And the CDC data that I just looked up last week, and it was up to the moment from the time of the start of the pandemic until now, only, and I hate to say it because every one of these children matter and hearts are broken because they've died, only 770 children have 0 to 17. Okay, so K through 12 age, plus a little bit with the babies, have died of COVID. And when you take that in light of the latest data on the American, US population, 0 to 17, that is 0.0001%.
Right.
That gives us no justification for masks. And then, Deb, you and I have talked about, but if if the child gets COVID or has the symptoms, they can go home and give it to grandma. And my response to that is, we've already had it proved that these masks don't really work that well.
Right.
And that N95 masks are the things now that work. Well, it's kind of convenient because China's selling them to us, but whatever. But anyway, so if grandma has an N95 mask on, that child is not going to give COVID to that grandma.
Right.
It's all about the mask that the grandma is wearing. If you look at how N95s were used in the medical community, the patient wasn't given an N95. The medical professional, the doctor or the nurse in those instances were the ones wearing it, not the patient. Right. So the whole thing, it's like, it's just not, again, we're seeing what's based on science and what isn't. And plus that is so manipulative to make a child feel guilty that they're going to kill grandma. I mean, it's just so horrific to suggest.
And believe me, we've heard that from different moms, that their kids want to get the vaccination because they don't want to bring home COVID to grandma. But I think your point is true, that if I'm elderly, then I need to figure out how I'm going to take care of my health, not everyone else. Right. And then those children that are sick and have comorbidities and are very ill, those children need to be handled differently.
Yes.
And that's what moms do. They should be handling those children in those situations delicately and taking care of those, but yet you can't expect, classrooms to be held captive and not even able to understand or smile or engage. I mean, it's just not normal. So I'm glad to see that these mask mandates are dropping, and we're all fighting that fight all around the country, and never going to have to make vaccines mandatory either. But that's probably another whole show.
Exactly.
But can you give us some closing words of advice for these moms that are listening today, Tamra?
Yes, moms, I think the biggest thing that I want to share, and I know this is Debbie's heart all the time on this podcast, that you're not alone. We're here for you at Moms for America. We have amazing women on our team that do all sorts of things to support you, to train you, to mentor you, to come alongside, or just to listen to your story. Sometimes you just want a sounding board. And so I really encourage you, go to our Contact Us form. You have a lot of options there, and school boards are just one. Reach out to us. We are here for you. We're in it with you. We're all moms, and we love our kids, and we know how much you love your kids. And, all that we can do to support each other. Everywhere I go, I hear from key top leaders and elected officials around this country that believe the moms are critical to saving America.
Yes.
And some of you that excites you, and some of you that intimidates.
It's terrifying. Yeah, it's terrifying, but it's so true.
But it's just true. And it's not because you have to do anything or be anything super special. You are special. You are protecting the next generation. And so we're just wanting to partner with you. So don't hesitate to reach out to us, momsforamerica.us.
Love it. Thank you, Ms. Tamra Farah, for joining us today. You have such great ideas. And I mean, every time I talk to Tamra, she's got more ideas for her mom. So we are going to just keep informing you and helping you and encouraging you. And thanks for those great words, Tamra. We appreciate the work you're doing at Moms for America.
Thank you, Debbie. Enjoy being with you.
All righty. Well, thanks, Tamra. Thanks, moms, for listening. Again, visit momsforamerica.us. Look at all of our resources, look at all of our information we have on our website. Before we go, Tamra mentioned this earlier, I always do want to encourage the moms to check out our signature project called the Cottage Meetings. Through these 12 inspiring lessons, again, this is all on our website. Mothers can take this course in their home with other moms and learn about America's history, heritage, the principles of liberty, and how to build a foundation of freedom in your family and in your community. It is truly amazing. Thanks again. I so appreciate you. And you know what? Go to your school boards, talk these principles through with your kids at the kitchen table. Look for new alternative ways for education. Just shore up your tribe, and you just pray through what you need to do in your home and with each of your children with their education. God will give you all that you need. And we pray that we can help you in that journey. So we love you, moms. Thanks so much. Like, subscribe, and share. And remember, we are changing the world one home at a time. God bless.